Okay, guys, without any spoilers, please. I haven't played yet. How was the raid? Like, how long did it take you guys?
Oh man, the raid was awesome. Just awesome.
It's fun.
Really
It's pretty. Like, it's so beautiful. It's so much fun to work on the teamwork in it.
I saw you guys online like pretty late. I was inspecting you guys. Like, you took you a little while.
Well, like I really recommend doing it blind. Like, it's fun to figure out the puzzles. You know, it takes a while, but you know, you have good communication. Definitely
Some good
recommend
puzzles in this one.
Right, but you guys started at like 12:30, and then I got home from work and I inspected you guys. Like, when did you actually finish?
I mean, there's a lot of puzzles in it. Like, every stage is a different puzzle, and you know, first you have to figure out how to do it, and then you have to do it. It's, you know,
they have all sorts of mechanics to learn, and then you got to
guys,
get the mechanics down.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's a true Destiny raid, but start to finish, how long did it take you?
I mean, it's a really good raid.
Yeah, it's good.
How long, guys?
Yeah, it was 12 and a half hours. But it's not about how long it takes. It's about how much fun you have. And
it's about the journey,
the stamina. How long can a human body play video games for? At least 12 and a half hours. Now we know.
Yeah.
That's the real puzzle.
Guys, it sounds like you had a wonderful journey, and I'm so happy that you remembered it was Thursday after you lost track of all concepts of time.
Actually, I thought it was Friday for at least the first third of today, and was really confused when everything on my calendar looked weird.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Crucible Radio, the podcast for all things Destiny 2 PvP. I'm Bones. That's Swain and Birds.
This is me, Swain. We're gonna save our raid talk until we do our PvE episodes.
PvE episodes, multiple this year.
We're gonna talk about it. But this is Crucible Radio, where we talk about the Crucible.
And like I mentioned, it's Thursday. So we have not done the new Trials of the Nine, meaning that later on in the episode, we will be interviewing ourselves from the future.
Our future
our favorite
selves.
guests. Our future selves.
Should we record questions now so our past selves can interview our future selves about it? That would be fun.
That won't send Andrew into a frenzy at all.
He'll be okay. He'll be fine.
But yeah, we're going to be playing it eventually this weekend, recording it. So no time at all will pass for you, but at least we'll get a proper sense of what's coming, because Trials, baby, it's back, but probably different. Ask me in 30 minutes of this show. Otherwise, we got some stuff to talk about this week. Obviously, the Destiny 2 world is very busy, and so is the Crucible. A few plugs first. What do we got, boys?
Yeah, well, I got a plug for you. If you want some free stuff, or at least a chance to win it, we're going to be giving away a Crucible Radio care package with some cool swag. We're going to be giving away a Scuff controller. We're going to be giving away a sweet as... Oh, yeah, you build it. You want Infinity, you want Impact, you want 4 paddles, and it's also pink and purple like Dawn to Dusk, which is a dope shader. You can build it, or you can get yourself a sweet as gaming monitor, PC, Xbox, or PlayStation. It's going to make your life better. All you have to do to sign up, we're going to be doing drawings all through... Swain, when is it?
The end of September and early October. We'll be doing 3 different drawings on 3 podcasts for those different things.
And all you got to do to sign up for a chance to win is go to crucibleradio.com/giveaway. Couldn't be easier.
crucibleradio.com/giveaway. Do it.
Also, I own some of the CR merch because I love us. But it's also really comfy and awesome. The new gear is great. I love it.
We tried it out for sure.
I've got one of each of the mugs now, and it just makes me so happy to drink out of a Voop mug in the morning. Like,
yeah.
I need my coffee so bad, but the Voopiness just gives it that extra.
Yeah.
The mugs do not add additional caffeine to your coffee despite having Voop on them, but it feels like that.
They also don't make you better at using a fusion rifle in Destiny, but it feels like that.
That's not proven. That is not proven.
Not unproven.
We do not know that.
We didn't do the science, that's for sure.
Fallout, can you make a video on that?
Look, this episode, we're going to be talking about the meta, but before we do that, we just want to ask, could you please, if you enjoy the show, go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. It means the world to us, and we love reading them.
Yeah.
Because you guys write some funny stuff.
I've got a pretty good one here.
Okay.
iTunes review? Let's hear it.
So, it's from Cool Bro Man Awesome.
I love it already.
And the title is Not About Arthur Miller's The Crucible. I was expecting an entire podcast about the play by Arthur Miller. Turns out this podcast is about some game called Destiny. Don't know what this game really is, but I stay for the intro bits.
My man. Maybe we should do an Arthur Miller The Crucible episode of Crucible Radio.
That'd be amazing.
Mix it up.
So, thank you if you've left us a review. Thank you if you're going to leave us a review. We really appreciate it. It helps us find new listeners and spread the Crucible Radio love.
I know we're not supposed to stay talking about this, but if we did an episode about Arthur Miller's The Crucible, we could talk about Overwatch all we want. We could always just say, well, at least it's not an Arthur Miller's The Crucible episode. We'd be free.
Well, you know that Overwatch is just a modern interpretation of Arthur Miller's The Crucible.
Anyway,
right? Whoa.
Guys, what are we going to talk about on this show?
Bird said the meta? What? In D2 already?
What's a meta? We're going to talk about the different play styles emerging that Birds thinks is going on. We're going to explain that D2 is not D1.
It's true.
We're going to have our trials chat, and then who knows what else.
We got some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you my my definition of the meta, which I can feel Bonesy getting ready to correct.
Oh, he's ready.
Yeah, he's locked and loaded. But the meta, short for the meta game, means what is good stuff to use and do. And we're at the early part of the game right now in D2 where we're still kind of figuring it out, but it feels like every day I find something good to do or use. That's it, right? Like, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think when people say the meta on the internet, that's usually what they mean.
Well,
that's usually what I mean.
Meta gets thrown around in the same conversation as OP. And people just throw it around and use it however to describe whatever. And it kind of loses its meaning as it keeps getting used and used. So, Bones, you wanna school us real quick?
Some knowledge on us.
It's not even a school. It's not even like you guys are wrong. It's not even like anyone's wrong when they're saying it like that. But one thing I like about the word meta is that it means so much more, and the way it's commonly used really just limits it. It's more interesting than that. And this is something we probably hit on in episode 8. I don't even know. But it's important now that we're starting this new game that we kind of revisit old concepts like that so that we're not forgetting the basics. And meta is one of those things. And the reason I love meta is because it describes all of the parts of Destiny that feel the coolest. And that's when you do something that wasn't inherently explained to you to gain an advantage. So it's not in an item description. It's not a perk. It's not a stat that shows up on the fruit space or on your screen in any spot. The meta is all of those little things that you do as a player to make your character perform and to defeat an opponent. So using shoulder charge to maneuver around the map. Have you ever seen A.E. Gabriel fly around a corner and then shoulder charge to give him a 180 momentum and then pick off a guy who thought he was just fleeing? Like, that's meta. That is a meta move because the game doesn't say, hey, use shoulder charge to also turn corners fast. All of those things are incorporated in metagame. And metagame is what takes players from just clicking buttons when they're instructed to into becoming skilled at something and developing play styles. And that's why meta is so fascinating. So we say there's a meta developing in Destiny 2 already. Yeah, it means what guns are good. Some of them are showing up to be pretty strong already, and we know that. But it also means, what are we doing to sort of crack the code and figure out something more?
Yeah, so I've often explained it as, especially in early game, we're trying to get the most out of literally everything we're being handed. Whether that's the guns, that's the subclasses, that's the movement abilities. You are trying to essentially break the game without cheating, obviously. Break the game to give you the best advantage in any situation you choose. And that really all depends on how you personally play the game. But over a large amount of people, there tends to be, a return to the means. Like, we're going to find what works best in the long run.
I like to think of the meta as the conversation, right? Like, and maybe that's like when people say like, that's meta, like we're not talking about playing the game. We're talking about playing the game, or talking about playing the game. Like the conversations that people have on the internet about like, this gun is good, or I figured out this thing, or like this works when you're by yourself, but when you're playing with a team of people trying to do this larger goal in the game, like those sort of next level conversations, like that's the meta. And that's the part that takes a long time to figure out, because like everyone can read perks. It's when you have to figure out how all those perks interact, and you saw some guy who uses it like this, and you cribbed this thing from him and added your own twist. Like that is sort of all of that bubbling up, whether you're participating in the conversation, you're listening, or you're just seeing people use it in game. Like that's all meta. That's all part of it. Well, let me talk about one aspect of it that I see right away. That's like I'm starting to see, and everyone has noticed this. Like when you load into a Crucible match, especially if you are playing with or against fire teams, I'm really starting to see two different play styles show up. Like two that are starting to become dominant, more effective than the others, at least against what they go up against. The first one I've been calling the firing line, and I think you guys know which one this is. This is like, all right, you got your 4-stack, and you're like in a tunnel on Retribution, and you're all just like glued to each other, just like slowly walking forward with your pulses and your scouts, just like shoot. And like personally, like for me, that play style is a little bit boring, but it's very effective. Like there's no arguing with that. And it is difficult to challenge when you're by yourself, or if you don't have a good plan. And so I think what we're seeing is like a lot of people will just like solo queue, and they'll go up against a team like that. And it is hard to go up against.
Right into the buzzsaw.
Yeah, right? Like they're just, if you try and challenge them with the same play style where they pick a corner and you pick a corner and everybody shoots at each other, but they've got 4 people and you only have 1 person, or even 2 people, the fight's probably not going to go that well.
I like what you said, Birds, that like you got to have a plan. Like if you're going to do this, you can't just run right in. Like the way you'll beat this is with a plan.
Yeah.
And that's probably where you're seeing people upset about this, is because they simply just don't have a plan.
I mean, you didn't really need a plan in a lot of D1, right? Like if you had your grenades up and you had a hand cannon and like a fusion or a shotgun or something that kills fast, you could just like say, all right, there's a clump of them. I'm going to go dive into the center. I'm just going to skate as fast as I can, and then just like throw a grenade down and then like punch this guy, shoot this guy, and do all this. And you could get away with that. Like if you had good pure motor skills, that was very effective. In D2, if you try and go up a firing line with that, they're just going to shoot you right out of the air. Like, or you're going to be able to get there and they see you coming, or even if they don't see you coming, you're going to get ganked because you're trying to play their game, but you're playing it on their turf. But I think this is really important. Like this is effective and it is popular right now. So like there's that part of the meta, but it is not indefensible, right? Like when everyone is in a 4-stack together, 1 rocket can take them out. Like some grenades, like you throw that Titan swamp grenade, like that can bust that up. And I find that the people who like that play style generally have a weakness in close quarters because they've chosen long range weapons. My personal play style, which I find to be quite fun, is like still what was popular in D1, like the flanker, right? Maybe you're not necessarily by yourself, but you're really trying to close the gap. You want to use short range weapons. You want to be in air. Like my loadout for this is Nightshade, which is a pulse, Phosphorus, which is the best SMG in the game, and Quick Fang, which is just like the dopest sword ever. And I noticed that, like, okay, SMG and sword, like these are close range weapons. I'm playing Arc Strider, so generally my build is about strong melees, dodges, recharges. And I noticed all of my weapons also have lightweight on them too. And I didn't do that on purpose, but I think I just sort of gravitated towards it. And all of these things kind of work together to support an in-air play style where you can do damage without getting shot, like close range in-air. And they also are really focused around being able to take on multiple people in one engagement. That's like the code you have to crack when you want to play this play style, even if you have a buddy.
I really tend to go that route too, Birds, like that up close flanker route in D2. But the way I see it is it almost like a movie killer, like there's a killer in a movie and I want to appear out of nowhere and disappear back into the map. Like map knowledge immediately is going to give you the upper hand, especially with brand new maps, people getting used to everything. At the moment, that is key because the radar doesn't give you as much as it used to. And being able to just appear out of nowhere, grab that one guy who's not paying attention from the side and disappear back into what you're doing is amazing.
That's like my favorite part of like hitting the side of a firing line when somebody, and like, let me just say, like, again, nothing wrong with this play style. Use whatever, don't apologize. But like, if I just wanted to like shoot, like aim for headshots with a pulse rifle at long range for hours on end, I would just keep playing the raid.
For 12 hours on end, you mean?
Yeah. First time. 12 and a half. But my favorite moment is, Swain, like you say, when you can get into radar range of someone real quickly and you can catch them when they're ADSing, and before the other member of the firing line or anyone else has like de-radarred, or even if they have, they can't quite place you, which generally means being on top of people. So triple jump I find is great for that. But yeah, really being able to get in position fast so you can stay out of that dangerous period of closing the gap where, you know, 3 people just shoot you out of the air.
Yeah. Don't be a dummy and pop your super in front of 3 people too.
No.
Like, especially
someone's going to get a daily challenge for that.
It's something I've learned a lot from playing Sunbreaker D1 is don't pop your super in front of everyone. Like, it's the fastest way to die in your super. You want to be smart, especially now that most supers are like roaming supers. You should probably find a way to close the gap.
I mean, and so I'm still figuring this out. Like, I'm happy to just get like a solid plus 1.0 KD if I can say every single one of those kills was traumatic for the person it happened to, because it was just death from above from start to finish. But I'm still figuring it out. Like, I know I like lightweight. I know I love this SMG. I know swords are dope. But at the end of D1, I had so many different, just like, we just knew so many tricks, like so many different ways to abuse this and to like be able to go clutch, to be able to lift your power level to something that could take on a whole team. Like, granted, it's not the same game, but in D2, we're just starting to figure out what those tricks are. And tricks is maybe not the best word, but it seems like a trick the first time you realize, oh my God, no one else has realized this yet.
And you really put it there, like, and we said it up top, Destiny 2 is not Destiny 1. You need to immediately accept this and move along if you want to continue playing this awesome game. If you keep going back to your old habits, you're going to find a lot of frustration, I think.
Well, and I mean, that just comes back to meta, right? Like that, it comes back to figuring out how to crack the code. It's a new thing to figure out. The same applications might not work on a brand new video game as much as it does share similarities with its predecessor. And that's kind of the fun of it, is figuring out, okay, I can't do that anymore, but what can I do?
So it really all boils down to a few things that we're all just trying to figure out. We're trying to get in there, break the game, figure out how to do certain things like kill fast, heal fast, reload fast. Those are all really important factors in how you'll be able to win engagements, move about the map, figure out where you're going, figure out where the enemy is. It ends up being the focus of what we're trying to meta here.
I mean, some of this stuff is obvious, and some of the stuff is going to take ages to figure out. And like Bungie will make balance changes, and that'll
shake it up,
stir the pot a little bit. But like even past that, like I've been using this example since episode 3. Remember when we all thought ambush was the only good scope?
Yeah,
wow. Like and that's like something that like, okay, yeah, we didn't have perfect stats, but it was just like, everyone just read the same Reddit posts and we all used ambushed and we all sharded anything that didn't have ambush on it. And then somebody realized like, oh my God, short gaze is super sticky. This is cool.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff that's in the game that's right there that's obvious that just like people haven't figured out how to use yet. Like I've never seen an Arc Strider who had the dodge melee recharge cycle down, like grenade to soften people up, charged melee dodge, charged melee dodge. Like that's there. I just don't think anyone has really tested the limits of that skill set yet.
Also, you're telling me that the roll to invisibility with Night Stalker has been completely tapped and it's just proven to be not good? That sounds absolutely lethal. And someone's going to start using that in pretty incredible ways once people figure out how these classes work.
Well, I mean, with D2 and an entirely new game, not entirely new game, but a mostly new game, we are given like this entire pool of new stuff, whether it's exotics, whether it's your subclass nodes, whether it's the perks on the guns that we are getting, the different archetypes of the guns we're getting. There's so many new things to comb through, and we've only scraped the surface. And that's why I think a lot of people are immediately jumping the gun. Really. And going back to a familiar face with Mida. A lot of people are like, oh, I know how Mida works. Like, I'm going to use that. And you're seeing a lot of people use it. Obviously, you're given it in the game through a quest line, but that's a short term. I don't think that's going to last. It'll be around for sure. It'll be an option. But I think as people dig in and find combos, whether it's a pairing of an exotic gauntlet with a certain gun or a certain playstyle, you'll see people evolve these things. And suddenly, as you see someone do really well with it, someone's going to be watching and be like, oh my God, that's a great idea. I'm going to use that.
That's such a huge point. Like, I think like that people watching it part, like my theory on why Mida is super popular, because like Mida, everybody loves Mida multi-tool, but Mida works really, really well for firing lines, and firing line is the dominant meta right now. But that doesn't mean it's the only meta. It's just obvious. What we need are heroes. Like, we haven't had the A.E. Gabriel of Titans yet in D2. We haven't had the Lumi of Night Stalkers in D2. And one player who manages to figure out something new and abuse it and win with it, paired with a certain degree of natural ability and a lot of dedication and focus, someone is gonna set the world on fire with something that's in the game right now. It's right there, and we just don't see it. We haven't used it yet. Like, this is my favorite time.
Yeah, like True Vanguard even said it last week. He wants to be the best Code of the Aggressor Sentinel Titan out there. And on the surface of that, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to use that. But he was like, that's his goal. Like, he was like, I'm going to bang my head against this wall until it works for me. And he like that's just loving something. Like there's certain aspects of certain subclasses, like people will find a way to use it, even if it's not the most ideal use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's lots of playstyles out there and lots of little combos that I'm so excited to figure out. There's one that I learned of today that I'm so interested to try. I haven't gotten on to because I've been sleeping.
Fair.
I haven't gotten on to try it, but there is an exotic combo that I think is very interesting. There's a pair of Titan boots called the Peacekeepers, and not just being kind of slick looking, but they have a perk called Mecha Holster, and it reloads stowed submachine guns and allows you to ready them instantly. So not only does it reload the gun for you, it allows you to just immediately have it ready. So the thinking here is you can run 2 submachine guns in your primary and your secondary and end up never having to reload because you're just constantly switching between the one and the other. So I think this is a little bit of like Bungie trying to inject this playstyle by like hinting at it. They're like, hey, you know what? You should try doing this. And not even like outright saying it, but putting the items in there that say like, use this thing with this thing. And it's like, oh, all right, well, that doesn't seem like the most effective, but I'll give it a try. And I think that's what you see with a lot of these new exotics is like hints at little things they want you to try.
I see when you said that, the first thing I thought of is like, well, if you're going to go double SMG, you need some range coverage that someone's going to figure out, like with that setup, a particularly long range SMG that's like maybe not very good for traditional SMG stuff, but something that is technically an SMG that lets you cover a multitude of ranges.
Something
and all
at
of a sudden,
upper end of the SMG, like range cap.
Like sacrifices something else for range. And like overnight, when we see a video or a stream of somebody using a phosphorus plus a longer range SMG, like that gun that no one ever heard of because it didn't have the fastest time to kill, it just happens to have good range, that's going to be the it gun, and everyone's going to want to get it. And it's there. It's there. Someone's going to try it. Maybe someone will have some luck with it. But like, yeah, exactly, right? That's... because that cracks the code of reload time. Like that is something that prevents you from going clutch is you unload into one person and then you're reloading while you're getting shot.
It's really exciting too. It's like, it's fun to be able to see that and be like, put it together, especially if you're not like currently playing the game, you're at work or, looking through, streams or YouTube videos and you're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, I can't wait to go home and play that. I'm going to play the hell out of that, even if it doesn't work. So,
remember when everyone thought defenders were lame in PvP until someone used them in a tournament and they got banned the next day?
Yep, I remember it.
I remember one real example of this sort of cracking the code before we move on to our next topic. I did this on accident. One of the big complaints is I can't take on more than one person at a time. Well, I accidentally did because I forgot to switch skill trees after playing PvE on my Titan and then jumping into the Crucible. So I really love Code of the Earthshaker on Striker so I can get my Seismic Strike, aka Shoulder Charge, and the double grenades and all that. It's great. But I was using Code of the Juggernaut for PvE. And I went in and had this moment in survival where I was weak and 2 guys were pushing me. It was obvious choice, 2v1. All they had to do was each come around a corner. Well, doing my back 'em up, bring 'em to me thing, I got the first guy to jump in. He was a little weak, and I managed to beat him with a little bit of hand cannon hip fire and a melee. And I had Code of the Juggernaut on, so Reversal procced, which is the melee kill perk that triggers your health regeneration. Boom, right there, I was at full health. So the next guy coming around the corner, who clearly had seen me before I backed out, seen me weak, saw his teammate go in, saw that his teammate died, for sure thought, wow, he must be absolute. All he did was walk around the corner. I was at full health. All I had to do was outduel him 1v2 right there. And that was an accident because I didn't have my shoulder charge on. And I was very happy in that moment. And then I realized Code of the Juggernaut's not actually that bad in PvP. And it's just things like that. It's going to happen through more playtime where we start cracking the code a little bit. And then boom, suddenly people figure out how to make the most of their abilities. And yeah, maybe it doesn't happen at extreme frequencies, but we'll see big plays and the plays will feel that much cooler to witness as a result.
It's a very interesting view of playtesting. Like Bungie can only do so much inside their playtesting studios. Like, and then they give it to 1.3 million people. And
Yep.
you see these things happen that they probably don't even expect. Like Titan scaling and D1 and like just emerge. And I'm sure at first they were like, yeah, Titans can go pretty fast. But they probably didn't realize like the extent that the community will be able to take their game, rip it apart, find every single detail, and abuse it for their positive gain in the Crucible. So it's exciting. I can't wait to see what the next big thing is, what someone discovers out of nowhere. And I think it was kind of funny at the end of the True Vanguard episode, but you were just like, can't wait to see what the next Sky Sniper build is. Like, that was a thing.
Yep. Well, and I think this might be big. For one of the items you had mentioned, Swain, was killing people fast. I saw this really interesting strategy for killing a lot of people at once. You guys might have seen it. It was the moment of the week, and one guy shot 3 people with 1 fusion rifle bolt and killed them all. Yep. Like, apparently that is possible. So maybe, shooting
Cable
3 people at
too.
oness with a fusion is the new meta. Oh, yeah, God, Cable did do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
he baited them all through a little door on Midtown, and they just all lined up in a perfect little row and took all of the fusion rifle bolts and all died.
So use power weapons. That is my new meta breaking technique right there. And line people up.
Power weapons. Birds, what a toss-up. One more segment before we interview ourselves about trials that I really want to cover in this week.
Wow, what a weird coincidence.
Yeah, crazy, right? It's like you almost knew what I wanted to talk about.
They tell me I'm special.
No, they don't. Power weapons. All right, so I want to do this. It'll be a brief segment, mostly so I want to get it on the air, in the episodes, and then we can talk about this down the road once the meta sort of evolves. But I want to do a power rankings of power weapons as I see them about a week and a half into the game, 2 weeks. What power weapons have you guys been using just to start us off? Swain, I'm gonna take a crazy guess.
Can you
Birds, have you done anything interesting? You mentioned Quick Fang.
Yeah, I mean, so I've used shotguns a little bit. I like my summer lead. I like Shock and Awe, the fusion rifle. But pretty much at this point, my only power weapon is Quick Fang. It is the Hunter Sword. It is that cool one that like you hold behind you.
So unfair. Warlocks don't have that.
Also, I've been using Crown Splitter, which is the Titan sword, like the giant slam.
Yeah,
which is so fun. And it's like, it's one of those things, it's not the most effective because it has a very long draw time. Like you're like, the swing down is often just enough to get team shot, but it's so much fun and worth it.
I'm going to make the bold claim that of the swords, Quick Fang is by far the best for PvP and also in general because it looks cool, but specifically for PvP. And the reason why is it is the fastest archetype of sword. You can swing it faster than I think almost every other sword. I've never seen another sword in this archetype. And it's still a one-hit kill. And so when you go up against multiple people, like if you've got a big sword or you're doing your R2 or something, that sort of lag time after you've done the move or after you've done your 3 swipes and are waiting for the cooldown to reset so you can do another 3, your goal is really to try and minimize that by moving as fast as possible. And And so because you don't really have to worry about damage output, if you touch them, they're dead. This sword is just the best in PvP. Plus, it's got lightweight, so you've got fast move speed while you have it. And I finally, like, I never thought I'd be able to, like, routinely get triples with the sword. Let me tell you, it's possible. It requires a lot of discipline because you have those 3 swipes before you use your hidden stored stamina up and have to recover before you do the next 3. So you cannot swipe too soon. So important. But for me, power weapon meta is Quick Fang, period. That's my jam.
Well, I do certainly believe that they are more viable now than they were when they were first introduced as a weapon you could just have in your inventory, which is great because it was definitely.
You say swords are not the best power weapon in D2, I will kill you. I agree with you. Totally fair. I will destroy you.
While we were
please carry on.
Bird's a little tired.
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
While I was planning an episode segment, Bird studied the blade. I do think swords are better than they ever are. I don't know if they're at the top for me. I have a couple hot takes of my own, though. I really liked the hot take segment last week, and I didn't do enough, so I got some today. I think for the most part.
Hold on a second. This is really important. Andrew, anytime we do hot takes, can you put in a little hot take stab and just like. And go ahead and leave this in the show. Like, have fun with it. Like, can't you? I'm so excited for all of us to find out simultaneously what Andrew comes up with to represent 4 seconds of hot take time.
Hey, yo, CR, can you throw me a hot take?
I think all power weapons have been moved to this slot and have been unleashed to a higher potential, except snipers. I think all guns are very good in the power slot. Part of that is because there simply isn't more of them on the field. I mean, you can't get countered with the sword as easily because there are far less shotguns out on the map ready to just blow your face off if you try to do something stupid like run into a room without a gun. And that's great. That's great. I love the way they give you that sort of strength, and it requires conscious efforts to take out that guy with the power ammo. Shotguns sort of returning to their ability to do crit damage, or in the Retrofuturists' case, have sort of a shot package. They feel great.
Can I respond to the sniper thing real quick?
I guess.
So I agree. It's tough to use a sniper in this sort of meta, but in the meta that's emerging. But every single time I'm killed by one, I'm like, oh my God, those exist. Like, wow. Oh man, it's been a while since I've had to like cover my head, like when I go across like a gap, or like go from position to position on a map. It's like, oh, he just ripped my head off with that sniper rifle. I do think though, it has allowed Bungie to be a little bit more like to go back to like short gaze, like draw times, like the quickness, the snappiness of a sniper rifle has returned on certain archetypes. And it's amazing how quick you can ADS and be real snappy. Obviously, you're going to lose your radar, but you are regaining how quick the ADS was. Like being able to find someone and just put like bullets down, down range.
Well, let me know what gun you're using, because I don't think that's exactly true from all of my experience using them.
I have an amazing sniper rifle that I love that's very, very quick and has very easy draw time. And I love using it in that situation. It's called the Valletta D, and it's a Haka sniper rifle.
Yeah, and that one specifically does have quick draw, which I can see why has that effect.
This is anecdotal, but like I picked up power ammo with my sword the other day and had a door challenge where it was like we both knew we were on the other side. We both saw each other on radar. It's time to go. And it was like, peek some. Oh, okay. Where is he? All right, I'm ready to dive in. And the moment I peeked back out from like 5 feet away, he quick scoped me. And I thought, Okay, that's funny.
Just
That's funny.
sword.
I was not expecting that. I guess I'm not using this sword.
Yeah, well, to Swain, to that point where you say you don't have to keep your eyes out you don't have to duck everywhere you go. It is nice. It is nice to have that sort of freedom without just being blammed from any odd angle of the game. And I think that 4v4 change was really part of that. Like Noosk had said in that interview, you're not just getting death from nowhere sort of feeling throughout the game. And that's good. That being said, I think snipers are a little slow and shaky. And I think anytime I pick up a power weapon, I'm like, let's go. Time to make the play here. And I pick up a sniper. I'm like, okay, Bones, you used to do this a lot, man. You used to be real good. You got, and like, I don't know, something happens.
I think that's evolving from your just not using them as often as you used to. Like, remember when like snipers used to be in your secondary and you used to never run out of sniper ammo, like literally never. So you would always run into the issue of keep my head down everywhere I go. Like never peek out, never, go through lanes without, making sure that you're not going to get killed by appearing in that lane. It's nice to be able to not have to do that, but I think it plays more into the sniper's ability going forward. Like I could see it maybe popping up. We'll find out later in the show. I could maybe see it popping up in trials more when you need to down people from further away, like instantly. But I could be wrong. It's I think the unexpectedness of it will play into its own hands.
I'll ask future Swain in a few minutes. But yeah, I put snipers pretty low on the power rankings of power weapons, only because they require a heavy dose of skill, whereas I think the other power weapons sort of unleash that guardian. Shotguns do feel good now. I like them, but you are limited by that range sort of thing, and things can get hairy. And part of the ability to, one-shot kill from a distance is an advantage in every other case. But I do like shotguns, and I think they're used quite effectively on maps in certain cases. The linear fusions, sort of forgot those exist. I think they're really cool, but I gotta play with that Man of War once. It was cool in the beta, but remains to be seen. Rocket launchers right now are pretty hindered on their ammo. You get 2, not terrible, but you're not making any huge plays unless that firing line like Birds was talking about, all decided to stand in one Warlock's Rift. And then, great, go nuts. But, it doesn't have that same visceral feeling of like, man, I'm mowing these guys down with my shotgun, or I just had a great quick scope with a sniper. Definitely effective.
That might be game mode specific. Like, I could see a rocket saving the day in Countdown where you just have to like bust through to one point in particular. But if you're going for, you're playing Clash or something, that's not going to get you the most kills. Situational.
There's not a lot of skill required of a rocket launcher. You point it, you shoot it, it goes and blows everything up in an area. Whereas like you kind of need a little bit of skill to use a fusion rifle. I mean, they do hit harder nowadays, and obviously we talked about sniper rifles, shotguns. They all kind of require some level of, skill. Whereas a rocket's just like put it in that corner and everything dies. You're good.
That's why I only get 2.
Yeah.
Well, rockets also have a new role where they're sort of compared to a new archetype, a new weapon, which is grenade launchers. And grenade launchers are kind of where my hot take exists, more so than I think snipers are hindered. But the rocket launcher's new role is to literally lay waste to an area, right? Like you're doing spread amounts of damage. You are not about pinpoint accuracy. But if you've seen some of these rockets go off, the explosions are absurd. It's like really cool. And I use it in PvE a lot all of a sudden. And it's just like, wow, it's like fireworks everywhere. It has that Wolfpack round effect or those cluster bombs, but like amplitude, which is great. So on the other hand, you've got the grenade launchers, which kind of think like they would do that, but they really don't. And I find that to be incredibly interesting just because they're not quite fitting the definition of what a grenade launcher typically has in a lot of video games. That's where I think it's interesting. So our buddy Nick, who does the YouTube videos for Crucible Radio, shouts out, posted a clip of that exotic grenade launcher that fits in the secondary slot.
Oh, I dismantled one of those.
Yeah. I think we all have at this point. And he said, seems like the most useless gun ever. And I watched the clips and I'm like, wow, yeah, that thing just bounced past all the enemies you tried to hit, and you made a lot of honest efforts. Your aim was true, and it just bounced past. And I totally felt him on that. But I had to make a joke where I said, "That's what everyone said about No Land Beyond." And boys, I don't know if you two were on Reddit when No Land Beyond was first introduced to the game. And holy shit, did people hate that gun. They thought it was truly awful. And I had to be like, I don't know, maybe it's a novelty. And no. Worst gun ever. Fast forward a couple years and everyone's like, oh, can we remove No Land Beyond from the game? And I just sort of thought, I'm like, what if that happens to grenade launchers?
Yeah.
It was a joke at the time. And then I'm thinking, here's my hot take.
Okay.
It does damage when you hit a target. Just kills them with most archetypes. The bigger bombs, just a kill. So what if guys like Real Crafty or someone who just has a great shot in all those tricky situations starts getting really good hitting single targets with a grenade launcher?
Yeah.
And what if that becomes easier than hitting a precision shot with a sniper? So a guy gets so good with a grenade launcher, gunk, that one thing goes off and they hit him. They don't even have to aim down sights. They don't even have to hit a headshot. It's just make contact with that bomb and you'll start getting kills. And someone's going to get dangerously good with that, and they will predict the movement, and they will hit someone in full sprint, and they will start sniping people with grenade launchers, and it's going to be nuts. That's my prediction. Hot take.
I like that. And I'd also add to that list that you don't even need line of sight with a grenade launcher.
No, you don't.
If you know the map and you know the angle, if you know where like someone is standing on the point, just lob it over the top of something. Let me ask, like, have you guys, like, but for me, by far, grenade launchers are my least used power weapon in PvE, in everything. Have you guys ever like put on a grenade launcher and just spent like 20 minutes trying to get that aim down?
No.
I did in PvE. I was just like doing patrols or public events on Nessus or something. And I had just gotten a new one. I was like, oh, this has got a cool reload animation. My only experience with it so far had really like even more in the beta than in the proper game is using it in PvP and like getting it near someone and being like, well, this isn't what I think a grenade launcher should be. I'm not going to use this. And then actually spending like 20 minutes learning how to aim it so you connect with it. A big part of it's being in the air, or in general being able to shoot down on people, so there's less arc to correct for. Mm-hmm. But like it took me a good 15 minutes before all of a sudden it clicked, and I was like even starting to do real DPS with it. I was starting to land them. And it was like up at literally that 15-minute point, I said, this is useless. This is taking forever. Why am I using this thing? But yeah, someone with a longer attention span than I am is going to crack the code on this.
Yep. And that's my hot take there. I put shotguns right there in the second slot. You got to be able to know when to pull it out and when to use your ranged weapons. Fusion rifles right now feel great. They can be predictive guns. You don't have to show your face while you're charging it. Pop out and blast them. We know they're capable of double, even triple kills against weakened guardians. They're solid right now, but they're solid in the way that they just feel good and they're comfortable. Other guns are going to probably compete with it as the time goes on. But man, if I call it with the grenade launchers right now, we'll have this to look back on. If not, then just delete this episode.
I'm curious because I named one by name. Like, we're still in this glorious grace period where people don't know every single gun in the game by now. What else are you guys using, like specific weapons in your power weapon slot? And why do you like that particular gun, that particular archetype in that slot?
I mean, we talked about why I like the Valletta D sniper rifle earlier.
True.
It's quick.
What fusion are you using?
I've been going back and forth. I've found getting team shot by people really took away how openly I can attack people with a fusion rifle. So I kind of tried to find a middle ground, and I actually used the Cartesian coordinate, which is the one you get from Devrim in the EDZ. And it's got a pretty middle of the ground charge time. So that means its impact is a little bit lower too. But it seems like the sweet spot for me. I would like to find more fusions in this archetype and give them a try. But I very much enjoyed using it when I was using it the other night. You got to be a little bit closer. It's not the long distance fusion rifle kills, but it's the quickness that gets people.
I like it. Bonesy, for you, let me ask this question a little bit differently. What do you think of the power weapons that you use? Which do you think is overall the strongest? Like maybe not your favorite to use, but the one you need to put on if you want to win, like Bonesy wants to win. And then what's your favorite? And then what's your goofball one?
If I want to win, I'll put on main ingredient. Still good after the beta with the perk Rampage doing extra damage. It's just an absolute beast. And I was the dude using Hitchhiker in D1. Like, I love the high rate or high charge times on fusions. I was all about that and stuff. Way longer than Plan C, even though that was a good one. So it already fits in my hands very naturally, and I think it's a monster. Right now, I'm trying to get good at sniping, and I'm using a single clap. It's a Suros one. And it's a middle impact, so it would be closely compared to the 1,000-yard stare kind of thing. And it's got a solid amount of aim assist. None of the guns have too much, but it feels good. You get a nice amount of ammo, and I'm kind of getting my shots down once again with that. For fun, I'm kind of messing with grenade launchers very occasionally. I've got one called Behringer's Memory. I don't know who that is, and I believe it's one of the.
Remember him though.
Yeah, it's one of the grenade launchers that we forgot to mention the perk on some grenade launchers. You hold it down and then release when you want the bomb to go off. It's like a Telesto kind of vibe where you can almost bait people. And I think it also helps you mitigate that problem where you shoot it and it bounces right past them and hits a wall behind them and does no damage. And you're like, well, darn it, I missed. So instead, if you did happen to shoot it at their feet and it's about to bounce past them, you just let it explode and you can get some damage there. And I think there's something to that perk, but boy, does it require a lot more practice and a lot more ammo before I'm confident on it.
Make that first Bonesy montage and set the world on fire with your grenade launcher.
Oh, baby. Quick Fang birds. I know. I already know.
What?
Your favorite gun? Quick Fang.
Yeah. I like Quick Fang. One gun. That's
so cool. I'm like so,
It's good enough. It fits my play style. It looks dope. I tend to be a person who focuses in on one particular thing. And even if it's not the most game breakingly good thing out there, if I become a fucking badass with this sword and know that range inside and out, I'm happy, man.
You know, it's cool, but you know what the coolest thing in Destiny 2 right now is? The Dawnblade perk that lets you drop straight down from any height. It is so fun. Oh my gosh. I'm having the most fun just like finding high places and dropping down and feeling like I'm entering like a Jedi and just pop up Obi-Wan and the strike boss is there and I say, hello there. It's the best. It's the coolest.
Well, I think it's time for a little bit of a break before we get into future Crucible Radio thoughts on Trials?
Yeah. A couple days for us.
So cool.
A couple seconds for you listeners.
Yeah.
All right.
A couple seconds full of music.
Musical break.
If we could give love a name, I hope you know you share the same. If hope was like water, we'd all drown in your rain. If faith was a bright light, you'd illuminate the way. You're a gift to us each and every day.
We got music coming to you this week from A Tragedy in Progress. Check them out, facebook.com/A Tragedy in Progress. I've been loving all these music submissions recently, but I can never get enough. If you're a musician and you want to hear your music on the show, all you got to do is send us an email to crucibleradio@gmail.com.
If we could give love a name, I hope you know you share the same. If hope was like water, we'd all drown in your rain. If faith was a bright light, you'd illuminate the way. You're a gift to us each and every day. And I can remember
everyone. Welcome back to the show. We've got a very special guest here today to talk with us about their trials experience. That guest is us.
Crucible Radio.
Crucible Radio. Bones, Birds, and Swain.
The best guest.
We are here reporting live from the future to us, but still the past for you. But not as much the past as the first part of the show, because it is now Sunday. We have played some trials, and we want to talk about it.
Do we? Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, man.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah.
Let me spin you a yarn about how birds didn't wake up this morning.
That's not necessary. That's not necessary. We played a lot of good cards on Friday. Almost so close.
We were gonna play a lot of good cards this morning too.
Oh man, I don't set an alarm on the weekends. It's not normally an issue. It hit me hard today. It hit me hard.
Oh, okay. Well, I could safely say that me and Bones have gone flawless.
We did it.
Nicely
Shout out
done,
to
boys.
Fallout and Pump Train. They were wonderful carries. Yeah, they did a great job. They were staying engaged. They were making call outs, not trying, but making them.
They did their best.
Yeah, it was really
It's good to know that you guys are looking out for him. You know,
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Pump never would have went flawless without us. So
Well, yeah, because it's like a learning thing, and he didn't know how the tokens worked for revives, so it's like that's kind of like
He
a
really
hiccup at the
didn't.
beginning.
anyway,
No, they carried us to the lighthouse, or the what? What
Very
is it
nice.
called? Where are we?
The
The Spire.
the Spire, yeah.
the freaky spire.
Well, you can
Spire.
go to the Spire. Even if you don't go flawless.
That's true.
Yeah, I love the stages and the moment I stepped into that cannon for the first time and it just starts whisking you away. Very unnerving.
Very weird.
Well,
Was-
let's cover what we're gonna cover here because we have quite an in-depth conversation about trials here.
Do we?
Do we? Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, let's talk about all of it, right? Like this is new trials. This is our first chance seeing it. But I think at this point, at least on this map, this game mode, we figured out some of the big picture, some of the strategy, some of the more focused tactics, and just what we saw this weekend.
Yeah.
As well as the stuff you get.
So
All the
I mean,
stuff. Can we start there? Can we just
Stuff?
First impressions, the stuff, the map, the nice lady who gives you this stuff and is just like showing up over and over in different spots.
sure.
Pretty nice. What drops have you guys gotten?
Oh man, lots. I've got the submachine gun, the sidearm, the pulse rifle, the auto rifle, the shotgun, and the sniper.
So you just got everything.
Yeah, I don't have the scout rifle. Maybe that's the only one I don't have. Which is, of course, I really want the scout rifle, but the scout was the only raid drop I got. So, anyways, cancels out. Right off the bat, the guns to me are like easily the coolest set of guns I've ever seen. And I later figured out that's because it looks a lot like Monte Carlo in that sort of like overly sleek, futuristic, even though it's got its very own thing. I just thought they looked so cool, and they're amazing. I'm freaking out about how good they look.
One of the other things that has popped up recently is that people are realizing if you're in a clan, you can get these rewards without even doing it.
Yeah,
which I think is great. It promotes this clan, everybody working together, a really family-like approach. And even if you don't do it, even if you're not good at trials, you can get some cool loot. And even before we started, I got something from from Hawthorne. I got the pulse rifle. Not too enthused with it, but I'll be fine. I'll get all this stuff eventually.
I started out with the auto rifle, and I've used it all weekend. It was so amazing.
Yeah. I ended up getting the auto rifle as part of my drops later on from doing trials. But mostly I got some gear. Got a gauntlets, gauntlets, chest piece, and the mark for Titan. So
It was so nice logging in after work on Friday. And before I go anywhere else, just go into the tower and it's like, hey, look, it's the shotgun waiting for me. Well, I got the shotgun like 3 times, But I got the pulse, the chest piece, which I adore. And then also the auto rifle. I think we can agree this auto rifle is just like one of the best new guns, period, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got this perk that enhances your stability right off the bat on a trigger pull. So you can kind of pulse it. So if they break your line of engagement, stop shooting for a second. When you re-engage, you'll have that initial burst of stability once again. And it just feels like a laser. It's really, really good. And it's not the flat out highest time to kill. It won't dominate at range. So it feels like it still fits in its slot as an auto rifle. It's just a really satisfying one. I'm loving it compared to Uriel's Gift, which we've been talking about, or Scavelock.
I mean, it's the same archetype as Uriel's. And there's been this conversation today of like, well, Uriel's is great, but everyone's sleeping on the number or Jiangxi AR or whatever.
There's a lot of stuff. Like,
add one more to the archetype that everyone's going to argue over because they are all great guns, but this one in particular.
I love that like all this stuff is being thrown into the pool periodically. So it's here like, oh, raid weapons came out. That's a whole nother set of guns that we have to look at. Trials weapons came out. Look at another whole set. We got Iron Banner coming up next month. There's going to be a whole nother set of weapons to get from that. So much loot, so much to get. I'm excited.
Another big point to make about the Trials weapons is that it carries over in the theme from D1, especially in the later sets of Trials gear, where they had perks that felt good together. And they did help for the situations you were going to be in, like the Crucible, because you like PvP, you're getting great Crucible rewards. So they have perks that immediately apply to that scenario. And they aren't flat out all, this one has snapshot, quick draw, and highlights enemy targets, and all those. They're not like disgustingly good, but you get stuff like the perk that increases stability and accuracy when sliding. It even refills your mag a little bit. And if you're a veteran PvP player, you're sliding all the time. So it's like, great. That fits into what I naturally do so well. This gun already feels good in my hands, even when I'm not shooting it. And that's what I think is so great about, playing different end game activities, searching for different loot, is because it applies to what you want to do with it once you get it.
I also took a page out of Swain's book and spent some time reading the lore on all the Trials stuff.
It's spooky.
Highly recommend. It's spooky, man. These guys are toying with us. They got big plans for us. These nine.
These nine
of them.
I mean,
who are they?
I said it before. Read all of the lore. It's all funny. Found out that MITA is a acronym. Yep. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. It's on the MITA lore.
Okay, hold on. I gotta. Can we pause recording for a second? This requires investigation. Okay, so we got all this cool stuff. Obviously, this first weekend we're playing not only a set map but a set game mode. But knowing we've got Countdown and Survival in the rotation, and it's like we've played plenty of both in the competitive playlist. What did you guys think about Countdown for a Trials game mode?
Oh man, I think Bones put it best when we were playing. Is that I want to watch this on esports because it was so like just the entire time was just action and strategy and tactics on what you're going to use and where we're going to go, constant communication. It was perfect to watch. Like, I feel like I really want to watch some competitive Countdown.
Countdown is like take the end of a Trials round from a while ago and have that level of intensity where two people might be trying to cap the zone. And there's all these elements of like, well, you could just flat out kill them and you'll still win, or you could cap the zone and then you'll win, or you could just be closest to the pin and stretch time out even more. All of those weird strategy that suddenly come up when the clock hits zero, that sort of just happens all the time with Countdown. And I love that aspect of that mechanic. It makes for a very fun time. I do really like Survival, and I'm really eager to play Survival in Trials. I want to see how that feels too. But Countdown just adds all of these new things that can happen. Like Swain, you had this play with your primary submachine gun that you love, and there was a Titan barrier that you threw up, and you picked one guy off, but you're sort of just jumping around. Basically, you're just being a moving target in front of them and basically you delayed two guys from pushing up to cap the zone. So of course they blew up. You died, but it was the best play because you had saved the round and won because they couldn't do it in time. And that sort of thing is so much more exciting than like, yes, we've successfully killed 3 people. End of round, continue on. It was great. It's a nice change of pace to have something like that in trials where you got to win.
The other thing is that in the if you pick competitive out of the two, quick play and competitive, it's I wouldn't even call it just competitive quick play, because people leave those matches. Whereas with this, you are locked in, your loadout's locked, everybody's going to have to stay until the end, and it guarantees you a good game no matter what.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the inclusion of an objective there. And it's not, it's not control, right? Like the big objective is still kill the enemy team, control the map, get the win. But specifically with the countdown mechanic, because you can set in 2 different places, it forces you to have to be ready to call an audible. So if you're attacking and you realize like, oh, they're all on keyhole, this is not going to work. Like one person head down to temple and set and everyone else rotate down and sort of get ready to defend. Or vice versa, right? Like you're in a gunfight when you're defending and then you realize I only see 3. Oh, the 4th one's down there. We have somebody flanking. Can we get there in time? That adds a level of communication more to it than just like, oh, there they all are. Let's shoot at them while they shoot back at us and get the kill. I love that. And I've not watched any trials streamers yet, but I'm curious to see after, we start to learn this game mode, what the call outs are, what the communication is, and see the plays that develop.
So I mean, like with the inclusion of call outs on the radar, I didn't notice using it as much as I used to, like in normal. Like how we would make up call outs in Destiny 1, and we would be like, it would always vary, and you'd be like, oh, over there. But I found that in trials now, with the inclusion of the labels, people were using them. We were using the hell out of them. Like, hey, they're at gate. And I knew exactly what you meant by gate or path or fork, or like all of that was like right there underneath the radar. And I could know, like, no matter what, repetition, like hearing it over and over again, it was like, oh yeah, this is great. I love having call outs because we could know. And it says it like when you go to capture a thing, it's like, oh, they're over at temple. It's like, oh, temple makes sense. Yeah. And you just have to say temple. And I know exactly where on the map you're talking about. It's nice. It's very nice. It's a very small thing, but it's very nice.
Speaking of the map, it's certainly a very long one, especially when 2 teams start out at opposite ends. You're not just spawning in wherever there's a little bit of an opening. So there are some shoulder-to-shoulder battles, especially at the start, and that can really ruin your round if you're the guy that gets picked because two people saw you and you kind of walked into the firing line, and that's rough. But once that breaks up, or say 2 teams go to 2 different sides, I thought it was fascinating how for such a wide, long map, there were so many rotations and flanks. And we always talk about like, well, it's a team shot game now. There's no individual plays, but it's like, there's a lot of moving around still. Even if you're flanking with another friend, a 2-person flank is still a great flank. And there was a lot of fights from the side, a lot of getting pinched, a lot of, kind of hectic call outs like, all right, let's push temple. There's only one guy there. No, they're all behind us. We had to turn around and try to make adjustments. And I thought that was great. I thought the map had a lot of flow, even though there's this one sort of large barrier in the middle with only a few places to cut across. I was really entertained by that. And I tried to make plays like that myself, from falling back and picking up power ammo and swinging back around. And there's a lot of fun to be had in that sense, especially when you do turn a corner and you realize that you see the backs of 2 guys' heads. You're just like, yes, I did it. This was a flake.
Yep. I think the lock loadout adds quite a bit to that, because I went in with my sort of preferred loadout of Nightshade and Phosphorus, which is fairly close range. Definitely the Nightshade was not holding up at the super long distances of that initial 50-50. But that didn't mean that it was a bad loadout for the game mode, just that I was at a disadvantage for the initial 50-50. And that, I think that sort of, it kind of forces you to think about your what role you're going to play on the team. And a lot of that you don't really know until you load in. I love I thought I would start to get sick of it, but I kind of didn't. Like the opening sequence of showing off the emotes, but also showing the loadouts and seeing like, okay, 4 Midas, we know what they're after. Okay, I see a lot of shotguns. Oh, or everyone's running Uriels or the numbers. Like that tells you something about the other team and maybe how you want to play that first opener that I thought was nice. And that it lets you sort of continue to build your dossier on these teams as the round goes on, because you know that, like you say, they're not going to switch to Icebreaker. They're not going to change it up mid-round and throw something at you that is just genuinely a surprise. They're just going to use what they have, maybe in the same way, maybe in a different way. So strategy-wise, what worked?
So strategy was always something we would immediately start talking about when we loaded in. It was defining what side we were going to go to, depending on where we spawned. If we spawned attack, we would normally go one way, or if we spawn defense, we would try and slowly move up and see where we are in comparison to them. So it was figuring out what we wanted to do immediately as a group, because if you start to split off, those team shots become less effective, and you end up having one guy get picked off over here because they ran into 2 people, or these guys over here get overwhelmed because we're split 2 and 2. So it was a lot of moving completely as a team and talking as a team so that we were covering all of the routes. Because a lot of times you would find that if you were going to go set the charge, there would be someone flanking from the other team. So you would need to be able to see if someone was flanking. So one person goes up, sets the charge, while one person kind of hangs a little bit back and checks their radar. And if the charge was set and we knew someone was coming, we would move all the way up to the charge and cover it from a long, long sight line so that we could catch them off guard as they started flanking. Because the point of flanking is to catch 1 or 2 people off guard. And if you can turn it back around on them, it was perfect. It worked out great every single time.
I noticed there was one flank in particular. When you're on defense, you push through to Keyhole, they went to Temple, and so you go all the way around back sort of towards their spawn and come up behind them onto that platform. That was kind of a tricky flank to do, because you could go through the tunnel or you could come up behind them. In either way, you sort of had a bit of a disadvantage. So if you went truly behind, you were shooting up, right? You had that height disadvantage. And that made it tricky to close in right away on your own, especially if there's 2 of them, because they can sort of get cover, turn around, and deal with you. But just the pressure that applied, because they can no longer focus on Temple from there. They know they're being flanked, and even if you're not pushing hard, even if you're not closing in, they kind of have to drop their focus and maybe open up something on the other side for your team who's defending just straight from the spawn. Was interesting. I think the important thing was that you had to stay moving. That as soon as you were kind of statically in position, even if the charge is set, even if you think you got it, you got the numbers advantage. At the moment you kind of said, okay, I'm just going to stay completely still and wait for them, and they know where you're on radar. That's what got you into trouble, because that's enough for them to say, okay, we can go outnumber this one person.
Fallout made a really interesting call, and that we ended up using for the next 4 games before we went flawless, specifically in response to that flank where they push through Keyhole. So if you're on attack and you're going to Temple and you just have that opening, it is a great and smart move to go set. You're saying, all right, we're here. We already got it counting down. Come get it. But what happens was, a lot of the times you think, all right, well, let's put ourselves between them and the bomb. In that spot, though, it's really tough, because if they sit in their spawn on defense and they send someone flanking, and you're just down in that little hole by the power ammo, it's really tough to defend to the point from there, and you're very, very exposed. So what Fallout did was that anytime we got that push to Temple, we would run up and set. Fallout would go set, and then he would call a push all the way to the back. And there's this little golden triangle in the ground, and that big entrance from that defensive spawn. So I would push all the way to the defensive spawn where they can watch that. And then, so when that flank came around, which it inevitably did, 90% of the time, they'd come through that hall, they'd be above power ammo, and they'd be trying to hit us from back. And I would be already back in that spawn, like picking them off at a distance. And when you stagger ourselves, so even though I was way behind the capture point I'm trying to defend, I still had such a strong position there that they couldn't fight through like multiple layers of our defense. And it ended up being great. And we had a lot of rounds there where they just, flat out did not have time to come through us all the way to the capture point. So it was really cool how Fallout made the call to just basically be like 3 levels. He's on the point, I'm way back in the spawn, pump train's right up there on the power, and it's just like, how do you fight through that? You can't even get any collat damage, and no one's at the same head level. There's 3 things that are going to shoot at you. It was a really effective strategy.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? That the moment you set the charge and you've got maybe everyone standing on the point, you've now defined the fighting line as the very last-ditch effort. And so, okay, maybe having one person there to sort of watch for a sneaky flank or something important, but otherwise, yeah, just taking the line, the line of scrimmage and pushing it is far away from the point. So even if you end up losing all of your gunfights, they're still fighting, 10 seconds of movement away from the point. Mm-hmm. That might be the difference between you getting the charge off or them being able to defuse it.
Yeah, and by spreading out like that, putting someone past the point, near the point, and in front of the point, I can call out that flank if they do say, all right, nobody's at keyhole, let's go back to temple, and they come around their spawn side. I would see them a mile away as opposed to thinking, oh shit, they're right around the corner. So it was really effective to just get that spread, know exactly where they were coming from, and if we needed to, we'd tighten up eventually. And it's tough to do that in the moment. It's tough to sort of have that big breathability where you can be far away, cover a lot of angles on the map, but also be able to support each other in team fights. It's tough, but really worth it if you can execute it.
I'm curious to see, once, as we talked about earlier in the episode, the meta is still developing. Once people have some time to sort of settle into trials and explore sort of all of our different possible loadouts we can take into it, what comes up. There's one in particular that I was reading about on the playbook that made me chuckle when I saw it. There's a guy running Night Stalker with the Trapper Path, which allows you to throw your smoke bomb and it sticks on the wall and it waits for somebody. What I didn't realize is that it pings on the enemy's radar. So when they get close, they see a radar ping as if someone was standing there. So they would go to Temple and he would just throw it against the inside of that pillar. And so when they had flanked around and were coming back towards you, they would get a radar ping as if someone was standing on the point and kind of like tentatively push up, be ready to like slide around the corner and shotgun. And the guy who had set the smoke head was actually, at the bottom of beach and shooting up at them, staying off radar. And that just kept working over and over and over because people don't know that smoke bombs trigger radar.
That's a nasty little trick. It really is.
I had it happen to me. I went to go push in and clean up a final kill on a point, and I killed him, and my radar was still pinging, and I was just freaking out. I was like, wait. Did he get a res?
There's one more.
Did he get a res? Did he get a res? Where's the last guy? And then we realized it was actually just the radar ping from the smoke. So Anyway.
I mean, it's clear radar is going to be king in this game mode. That when you have 4 players to worry about, and that, look, I don't know what you're talking about. When one player can go clutch and can wipe the whole team, and if you say it's not possible, I encourage you to go watch some players out there. I watched Keen Koala do it too many times on Friday night. That being able to sort of manage your radar and not just see where they are, but be able to count pings, be able to see how they split their teams and sort of what the weighting is. And if you're pinched, to be able to tell, well, it's not a 2-and-2 pinch. It's 3 people that I should be shooting at, and then 1 person who I should be worried about, but I know someone else has got my back. That sort of radar literacy is going to be huge. And I think probably that's a big reason why we're seeing MIDA is because you have that radar ADS. Also saw a lot of Knucklehead radar, I think for the same reason, because it's just such a valuable piece of information when you're otherwise operating at a deficit.
Saw a really good variety of subclasses as well. which is just so wonderful to see after years of saying this one's the strongest. Everyone use this. There was all types. We played hammers. We played tethers. We played storm, void, everything. It was pretty great. Good variety in terms of abilities.
What subclasses did you guys like using the most?
Wow. So the ticket we just ran today, I was on Arc Strider, and I do like Arc Strider, but it's been tough to adjust because I put the most time in on Warlock. And boy, do I feel that recovery time and that mobility difference, because I'm like, I don't need 6 mobility. This is crazy. So I definitely felt a little squishy in that sense, but that's just my own adjustments. Otherwise, I had a lot of fun with the skip grenades, just throwing it into piles when I see my teammates doing damage, just chucking it across the map. A lot of good little extra damages there. But Dawnblade still, for me, is so wonderful. I love that I can throw a sunspot down, a solar grenade, and just eliminate that spot. Or if you're going to be in a tiny little hallway, have a grenade. Dawnblade felt great, and the Warlock Rift still is such a wonderful tool.
What about you, Bertz?
Well, I just on the concept of Warlock Rift, I would be, next time I play with a Warlock, I want to try and do a better job of keeping track of when they have their Rift up, because I think like just being able to plan when you know you're going for a 50-50, to know like, oh, you know, they've got the healing Rift up, I kind of want to stay with them, like that's going to be my buddy, I think could, you know, that's a piece of information I want to know. I stuck with Arc Strider. The super was, you know, it had its moments when specifically defending a charge and you know that they have to come to you. On defense, it was a little tough just because, you know, it is a big map. It's hard to close the gap. I love the Arc Bolt. I was running Lucky Raspberry. I have made a change recently. I've started using the bottom talent tree Way of the Wind, which I think is actually really useful for trials.
Yep, I love it.
Because come on, your sprint speed is increased. When you sprint, it reduces your dodge cooldown. And your dodge makes you harder to kill. And then add in that your grenade and your melee recharge significantly faster. I think the text is drastically faster when you're critically wounded. I mean, that gives you such a great combo for the opening engagement where, you know, it's 50-50, it's long range, you're pecking with a scout or a pulse, and they just burst you down. You're absolute. Well, if you want to start flanking around, your dodge is going to be charging up the entire time you're sprinting, and your grenade and melee are charging up because you're waiting to get your health back. It's like 4 exotic perks on one character that just seems like a great fit for this. So I'm going to stick with that. Swain?
I stuck with Striker for most of it. I played a little bit of Sentinel, but no hammers, unfortunately. I just don't think it's worth trying. Striker's the king, man, on Titan. Double nades at the opening of a round like that is just crucial for like making the 50-50 for them like useless. Like they don't want to push too far. If I can put my grenades in the right spots, I'm all for wasting those 2 grenades right off the bat, like just to do something like that. And that comboed with like the mobile slam, it really like works great to shut down supers. It works great for like finishing off someone that's trying to deactivate your probe. It's all great. Like yeah, the kit's pretty great. There's really like I don't necessarily like having shoulder charge because it doesn't really do much. It's a good mobility addition. So it gets me around the map a little bit easier. But I do think I would rather have like the punching recharge and the punching, like get your health back and everything.
Get your punch on. I had mentioned earlier sort of keeping better track of when your Warlock or Warlocks have their Rift, or if you're playing Warlock, when you have your Rift, and sort of communicating that proactively so you know that you're going to get the most value out of it when it drops. Another thing I'd sort of like to think about as from like the shot caller point of view is really managing those first round grenades. I know that there was a couple matches where we went up against teams that just had like they got that first round for free because they assumed keyhole, usually a safe bet. They had a wall up quick, and that just 3 grenades would come all flying out, all going to different places, like, you know, the same common lookouts, and just doing a ton of damage up front. That, Yeah, I mean, of course, 90% of your grenades, you're gonna have it, you're gonna realize it, you're gonna use it where you think it's appropriate. But that was sort of coordinating them in that very specific opener was such a game changer, and it just sets you off for good momentum. I wanna see how that shakes out, and if people start doing that intuitively, that like, all right, if we're defending on keyhole and I go left, I'm gonna nade that left side the moment I see them peek out. All right, well, one final question. Obviously we're changing it up. We're changing our emotes every round so we can stay fresh. But in terms of loadout, and this was the big regret of mine, was that I kind of stuck with my known quantity highest light stuff that's really more close quarters. I need to get another ticket in today, and I want to play some other stuff. What guns were you guys running, and what was working for you?
I rotated a lot, as I usually do, and I tried to keep a lot of range involved because range was king. And I used a little bit of Mida. I used Call to Serve, the legendary scout. And I even threw on the, it's an Omelon scout that has a lot of N's and a lot of A's in it. And we're just calling it the banana.
Manamana.
It's a high rate of fire and it has explosive rounds in the secondary slot. And I had fun with that too. And I could use my better devils. But I just loved that Trials auto so much. So I put my range in my primary. And I guess, it's got to be said that there was a lot of Midas, and I used Mida a little bit. I didn't feel like I was as consistent with my damage on it, which actually, bugged me. It's definitely good for getting around, but I was like, man, I want that 48 on the head with my Call to Serve. So honestly, either of those scouts for me felt really good. And I think I'm interested to see how Survival plays out on, I believe, Altar of Flame.
Yep.
Next weekend, where a different mode, different map. I bet the loadouts are different. We'll see some more hand cannons or origin story, and I'll be mixing it up too. But yeah, that range was good.
Yeah, I really found what I wanted to use in the Antiope. Anyway.
Antiope. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet
Antiope.
Yeah, the kinetic SMG. It's by Haka. It's so good. Just keep dismantling things and leveling up your gunsmith. You'll get it. I got 2 so far. So, and then I pair that with Conspirator, which is the Raid scout rifle. It's got full auto. It's amazing, and I use it. I went to other scout rifles in my energy weapon, and I I just didn't jive with them as well. So sticking with the Conspirator, and then I mixed it up between Shock and All, which is the Plan C light for Destiny 2, and Crown Splitter, which is the sword. But that was just for fun. Like you said, Buns, I use Mida a little bit, but I changed off of it simply because I'm just kind of not tired of it. I just want to use new stuff. I don't really want to use
You're all minded out.
I'll have it. I'll use it for other things, but it wasn't giving me a leg up in any way that I needed to have it. I absolutely need Mida is something I never said.
You gotta trust the Midas touch.
No, I enjoyed my loadout that I used. So,
also, boy, once I got hands on the trial sniper, Swain, I forgot to mention this because I know on the first half of this episode, when I talk about snipers, positioned on that, everything I said is still true. But this one has quick draw, feels snappy. I hit a couple shots in those last 2 games where I was like, okay, all right, maybe I'm getting back to something. It's still going to take some time, but boy, those guns look so good. I just want to look at them.
I was going through and trying to put shaders on them and think nope, they're great. I don't need to change anything about these. Yeah, I definitely came out of that first ticket and was like, I need to find my scout rifle. And I agree. I think there's something to be said for scout rifle archetypes that are higher impact than Mida, because when you're doing that first 50-50 and you just get nailed with a higher impact headshot, they only had to peek for a split second to get that off. But that's like a third, a quarter of your health, and just the effect that has to go all right, I guess I'm sitting out the rest of this first engagement. That was such a big game changer and resulted in so many early picks that just set the course of the round.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been practicing with Call to Serve. I'm taking that back in with me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I also put Nebula Rose on it, which is a great shader.
The shader game is real.
Call to Serve.
Shader game.
So real.
I will suggest Raid shader on Trials weapons You get this nice little gold flare. Oh.
Pretty much.
Oh.
Literally put it on anything. Put it on your cereal. Put it on your eggs. Put it on your burrito.
I'm the golden breakfast boy.
We should make a hot sauce, guys.
I love hot sauce.
And we'll name it after a shader. All right. Let's break business plans. Come on, guys. Team huddle. Let's end the show. Anyways, folks, that's our initial Trials takes. Obviously, there's more to discuss, more maps to be played, more modes. I can't wait for next week where we can talk about survival. And I'm so excited for more future Trials. I'm excited for future Trials with Swain and Birds because playing together has been a blast, which hasn't happened for quite a while in the Trials of Osiris. And it's good to be back.
I can safely say, and big secret, not a secret at all, I was not the biggest fan of D1 Trials. I love D2 Trials.
Yeah.
In a way I couldn't before. I couldn't just grind this out for hours. It's there's so much more depth. The 4 people, just game changer. I love it. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
Well, let's get out of here, man.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Crucible Radio. Go to crucibleradio.com. It's a great website for all things Destiny PvP. We got some beautiful overhead maps so you can learn all those call outs.
Do the giveaway. crucibleradio.com/giveaway. You have until the 20th.
Check it out, dude.
This is the last chance.
Yeah. Scuff controllers, monitors, gear, goodies. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Enjoy your week.
Love you.
Bye.
This is a call, come on! An invitation to save ourselves. We're taking notice, the chance will never call us. This is when all else fails. Every voice can make a powerful noise to speak of love and destruction of hate. The passing of greed to benefit mankind, a revolution of its state. Rolling in time and we feel again, no nothing still again from your life.
Hello everyone, Swain here. You know that Crucible Radio is your source for all things Destiny PvP, and I know you want more than just this video, so make sure to head on over to crucibleradio.com to find all of our past episodes, detailed Crucible maps, t-shirts, and much, much more.